A five-star broadcaster joining us in Studio B right now. He is the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell. Greg, welcome back to the show.
What's up, Greg?
Good morning, gents.
There's a lot to talk about, but none more important than a study on McDonald's French fries and the incredible picture you sent out in response to said study, which we are looking at right now on BYUtv.
This is an incredible photo, Greg.
It's one of those what-if situations. What if I had the answer back then? What if I had the secret back then?
Yeah, McDonald's French fries apparently have an ingredient that could prevent baldness.
I could have been rocking the center part to this day.
That thing's amazing. That was late 70s?
Yeah, probably thereabouts. Late 70s, early 80s.
Jerem has made it his new profile picture
it's
on Twitter.
It's my avatar.
New avatar.
Not for long, we hope.
Well, we'll see.
It needs to be displayed on the set.
Yeah,
It's already framed.
We think we need to put this somewhere.
It needs to be displayed.
Happy to sign that for you.
That is amazing.
Good heavens.
How old were you in that picture? 13?
I was probably 12, 13. Yeah, it's late 70s. I was born in 67, so yeah, you're probably, right around the turn of the decade there,
yes.
1980-ish.
If you want to know what it looks like, just follow Jerem Jordan on Twitter.
It feels a little cumbersome right down the middle here.
It already feels cumbersome in a lot of different ways.
We'll find a good spot.
So good.
Okay, let's talk about signing day, then we'll talk about hoops. So what stood out to you yesterday from signing day for BYU football?
Even though he's not one of this year's recruits, he introduced one of the recruits. Is it okay to say Tristan Hodge? Dude, solid. That's a big boy. I'm excited to see Tristan Hodge on the offensive line this year. Do you know he was Notre Dame's offensive scout team player of the year back in 2015?
Really?
So again, he comes with high school pedigree, P5 pedigree. I think Tristan Hodge is gonna be a player. I'm excited. Just the fact that he was there yesterday, and I got to meet him and just kind of shake his hand and see how good he looks, ready to roll. James Empey was up there introducing and recruiting. He's another guy that didn't play on the O-line that he will be on part of this year's line. So there are a couple of guys that were like not yesterday's news, but were there that got me excited for this year's season.
James looks really good too.
True, absolutely, and he could be the guy that steps in and becomes the new T-John Karoma. A lot of big shoes to fill there, obviously, but T-John started as a freshman, and James may be expected to do the same thing. I was impressed by how tall Stacey Connor is. Good gravy.
Yeah. He walked by me. I was like, who's that guy?
Yeah. What did Dave Rose looking at? He's got a hoops guy on campus.
Yeah.
Stacey Connor's tall.
6'5".
So
6'5", yeah.
I was impressed by how good Gunnar Romney's film is, and I'm excited to see him on the field. There's just a few takeaways, but it's BYU. You never know, right? I mean, who was maybe the most ballyhooed recruit from last year? Probably maybe Chaz Ayu, as I recall, might have been the biggest splash. Yeah. Well, he played 7 games, and he's on a mission now. So, played 7 games, made 9 tackles. I mean, you never really know, especially at BYU, because you may not see these guys really for years. And so it's always tough to assess just how good or bad a class is. It takes a long time and longer at BYU. So I like to let things play out, and it's a good day. It's an exciting day. The coaches know exactly what they've got, and we tend to have to wait until they've actually made a few plays on the field to get a real assessment of them. But
we almost have to look to, what is it, 2010? We almost have to go back to like 2015 and be like, all right, who's back from a mission or redshirted or transferred?
There'll be guys who show up this fall and go, oh, yeah. Him. He's been gone a couple. Yeah, there are always guys I forget about because they've been gone. They come back and make a splash, and we pick it up and go from there. So it's always tough to tell.
Now, you mentioned Gunnar Romney's name, and we're talking about immediate impact potential. Gunnar is probably that position that Chaz Ayu was in last year because he's the 4-star guy, and people are comparing him already to Austin Collie, but Jerem and I think that Danny Jones is probably going to be the guy that's a new guy that's going to have the biggest impact.
It's also
he's
impressive, from how far he came to come to BYU is also pretty cool. The fact that he's one of the Australia guys. But Gunnar Romney, I think, is in a different position than maybe a Chaz. Chaz was coming into a position that was pretty loaded, and I think Gunnar Romney's at a place where you're more able to make an impact immediately and see the field immediately. I know that there's another player out there, potential transfer that could come into BYU that plays the same position that could be one of those guys expected to see the field immediately. The top receiver for BYU last year wasn't a wideout; it was a tight end, and the wide receiver numbers, like the top 2 wideouts, Aleva and Micah. They were modest numbers, let's put it that way. And so I think that you can get more out of the wideout position. Micah's a great start, and Aleva's a great start, but Gunnar's the kind of guy I think who could add to that group almost immediately and see a real immediate impact. But I do like Micah and Aleva a lot.
And speaking of guys we kind of forgot about, Moroni Laulu Pututau, huge weapon. Joe Tukuafu, Matt Wells' favorite player on the BYU roster. Those two could make a big impact too. So, yeah, you're right. It's a fun day, and it's football every day. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, let's talk about the men's basketball matchup with Santa Clara. This is a team BYU beat by 34 on the road, but the situation's a little different in that I think BYU's dialed in after 2 losses last week. What do you think? Yeah,
it's a team that BYU tends to play rather well and shot it really well against them last year at the Levy Center, or last month at the Levy Center. Last year was actually the one game they did lose to Santa Clara in this entire series was last year in Santa Clara, but last month they did beat them. Dave Rose does a really good job of first of all getting his, and even though it wasn't a win at Gonzaga, it was a bounce back of sorts from LMU. The LMU game just didn't feel right? It just didn't look and feel right in a lot of ways. And 2 days later, they came back and played a much better basketball game. There was more hustle. There was more want to. There weren't as many shots dropping as they would have liked, but it just felt better and felt right. And it was competitive and it was tough and it was energized. And so even though it wasn't a win, I thought Gonzaga was a bounce back of sorts for BYU. And Dave's great at that. Dave and his program are the consummate bounce back program. They rarely lose 2 games in a row. And even though it happened last week, it felt different the way they took the loss Saturday in Spokane. So I was encouraged by it.
Well, let's take that bounce back mentality one step further with a stat that matters.
Yeah, so did you know Dave Rose this is his 13th season at BYU. He has never, ever lost 3 straight league games. Okay, so 2 games is it. All right, so now that BYU's lost 2 in a row, it's over tonight because Dave has never, ever lost 3 straight league games. In fact, losing streaks of any kind, Dave's only had 1 of more than 2 games in his entire tenure here at BYU. Late in the 2014 season, they lost to Utah, lost at Oregon, then lost to LMU Pep, I think, to open WCC. So they lost 4 games in a row. That's the longest losing skid of the Dave Rose era and the only rut longer than 2 games of any kind, and they recovered from it to go to the NCAA tournament that year. Now, that's a little ways ahead for this year's team. But that said, 2-game streaks are about as long as you're going to get with Dave Rose, and he's never lost 3 straight league games.
BYU has 6 games left in the regular season. What can the Cougars possibly do to make you feel like, hey, they can make a run in the West Coast Conference tournament in early March?
Well, mid to late February is kind of when Dave Rose's teams tend to play some of their best basketball. And again, I'll rely on some history here. He's coached 12 previous seasons. Of those 12 previous years, 10 of them have seen BYU finish either 5-1 or 6-0 in those last 6 games. And so that is the rule as opposed to the exception is strong play late. And so, Dave's, again, never lost more than 6 league games in any year. They're at 5 right now. So again, these kind of things all cobbled together to say, I won't be surprised, and I'd expect BYU to play well down the stretch, get to those double-digit conference wins, head to Vegas on some sort of up note. The fact you play Gonzaga on your final home game of the regular season, albeit not a true senior night, it is your final game of the regular season at home. It'll be a sold-out crowd. What a great way to go into Vegas it would be to get that win over Gonzaga on that night. They played them well last Saturday. Playing St. Mary's well both games. I haven't gotten that marquee win over the top 2 league teams yet. So wouldn't it be great to go into Vegas off of that kind of springboard? And again, way Dave's teams have played late. We wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
At this point, the at-large is out, right? BYU's got to win in Vegas. And so in the final 6 regular season games, and then you hope BYU wins a quarterfinal to get to a semi where you can be competitive. What do you want to see from BYU in the final 6 here to make you think, okay, a run could happen in Vegas?
A little better care of the ball being taken, a few more threes dropping, and really just that sense and that vibe that we had Saturday in Spokane, a really good together feeling. Even though shots weren't dropping, it just felt right, much different than it did a week ago at Los Angeles. And for the big 3 to play big at the same time, together, and more than just here and there. Because I think really you've got 3 really hallmark players in Elijah, Yoli, and TJ that when they're on together, they can beat anybody. And I hope that happens a lot.
All right, Greg, we always save the best for last. But maybe not today, because I think the picture was the best.
The picture was probably the best. We hope you provide something good right now.
But this is the second best. A cool thing about Canada.
So now today's thing about Canada may not necessarily be cool. In fact, I'm not sure that I'm totally in favor of it. But it is a thing. As of yesterday, the Canadian national anthem is now officially gender neutral.
Okay.
A Senate bill passed and got royal assent yesterday that now makes Canada's national anthem gender neutral by changing the words of the anthem. The words "in all thy sons command," which is how we've sung it for, ever, right, has been replaced with "in all of us command," to take the gender out of the neutral, to not be in all thy sons command. Now it's in all of us command. And so they changed it. They changed the deal.
Does humankind agree with this?
Yeah, and so Prime Minister Trudeau the other day is at a town hall, and somebody well-intentioned from the audience talked about mankind, and he says we should really say people kind. And now we're getting carried away. I think, because you bring it to music. What's Billy Joel going to sing? Piano person? It's just we need to just kind of figure out where, I don't know. It's
gonna be okay.
So yeah, O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command is now in all of us command. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little strange.
Yeah,
That's not a cool thing. It's a thing.
It's a thing about Canada.
Whether it's cool is up for interpretation.
Here's the thing about
some out there might think it's cool, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Greg Wrubell is a man of the people kind.
He's a person of the people kind.
Greg, great stuff. Thank you.
What are they gonna? At the golf course, guy hits a big drive. You the person doesn't have the same kind of vibe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods. You the person.
Yeah,
Where's the line, people?
Exactly. You got to find it.
Holy cow. What is your biggest takeaway from BYU football signing day? Is our Twitter question today as we say goodbye to the fabulous Greg Wrubell.
Coming up, I make the climb back in our latest and greatest and one takes.
Oh, you're making the climb?
Roxy's here.
Yeah.
Roxy's here.
And as Greg says, ESPN's Roxy Bernstein is in the house. Does he think this BYU team is better equipped to compete at the West Coast Conference Tournament in March? Look at those specs.